biography of Stephen Jesse Bernstein, or Jesse Bernstein as he was also called. We have in the audience with us today a friend of his who is going to give a short introduction to the film. It's Mr. John Bennet, who lives here in Ellensburg. And just got a few words to say, and then we'll run the film. You want to come up?
Cool. Well, this is funny. I know just about everybody here. I don't know if you can hear me over this buzzing, which I hope is going to shut off pretty quickly. Anyway, welcome. It's a documentary on Jesse Bernstein, Stephen J. Bernstein, who was a poet, musician. He was an artist, a street person, very much a street person. Got pretty big in Seattle before he died in '91. Can you hear me okay out there? Yeah. He used to, at one point in his career, he would, as a poet, he would lead off of major groups like Nirvana, Soundgarden, just big hardcore, grunge punk rock groups. He would lead off for them reading poetry, which is pretty unusual. That was one aspect of his career. He wrote a lot of poetry, he wrote some novels, he did numerous screenplays, not screenplays, but plays, scripts for plays, which he produced and acted in himself in Seattle, Bumper Shoot, and other places. He was born in LA in 1950, December 4, 1950. And when he was 4 years old, he got polio. And he spent almost a year in the hospital where they did some pretty heavy duty stuff to his spine, operations and manipulations, you name it. That had some impact on him, I think. But miraculously, he recovered from polio and has no after effects signs, had no after effects signs in that, which is pretty astonishing. He was brilliant and disturbed. His disturbance was partially because of his family, which is, like most families anymore, dysfunctional as all hell. And also, though, it was neurological. It was found out down the line that it was a neurological problem in his brain that affected the connection between his frontal lobes. He would get swelling in his brain that would cause excruciating pain and cause him to hallucinate and numerous other things. But that wasn't discovered until pretty far down the line. But he carried that around with him. And when he was 10 years old, he didn't do well in school because he was an ugly little guy. He just was an ugly little guy, and he just didn't fit in. And when he's 10 years old, though, he designed a rocket. He designed a rocket that he submitted to, is it Douglas Aircraft, is that it? For them to think about building. And they were so impressed with it for a 10-year-old kid with no training that it got written up in the LA Times and everything. But they didn't build it, though. And just to give you an idea, his interest in medicine and science was really strong at an early age. Came on before he could play piano when he was just a little kid. He played trumpet, he played stand-up bass, he played guitar, he just self-taught all those things. But he had this interest in science and in medicine and whatnot. But he also had this disturbance in his brain that would cause him, like I say, to excruciating pain and hallucinate. And that combined with his sociological setting. At one point, before he was even a teenager, he locked himself in the garage and he wasn't coming out. He was in there with books and paintings and he wouldn't bathe and threatened to kill his mother. And so she had him committed. She committed him to a mental institution that was for indigent people, basically, so they had everybody thrown in together. There was no age or sex separation. So before he was even a teenager, he was being raped by inmates and, people, his caregivers. And he got enough of that after a while. He hit the road, wound up in San Francisco when he was, I think, 14, something like that. And he started hooking up with off-the-wall jazz groups. He was drawn to jazz. Became a male prostitute at the age of 14. Got heavy into heroin and alcohol. That's enough to take anybody out. But he eventually got in some legal trouble. He left San Francisco, hitched his way north, and he was trying to get into Canada. They wouldn't let him in Canada. Nowadays, they'd probably waterboard him, but then they just said, go away. So he wound up back in Seattle when he was 16, and there he stayed until he died at the age of 40. And that's when all this business with, he made 4 records with Sub Pop, lived just dirt poor, never made any money. I met him in 1979, and I was here in Ellensburg, and at the time I was a real two-fisted drinker, and so was he. And he came over the mountains. He'd run across the little chapbook I wrote called Anarchistic Murmurs from High Mountain Valley. And he came across the mountains in this 2-door Chevy. The whole driver's side, which was made up of clear plastic and duct tape. And he pulls into my driveway and comes peeling out of the passenger side. Say, he says, I'm Jesse Bergstein. I said, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'd never heard of him. And I like your shit. And he said, I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, this book here. So he came all the way over the mountains to tell me he liked this little book. Well, someone like that, you have to put him up. So I did, and he stuck around for 3 days. And I'll try to cut this short here. We became friends. He quit drinking and quit doing drugs in 1981, I believe. 3 years before I did the same thing. And I never even realized he had done that. So I would go over to Seattle just in my, I was a lot younger and I was crazed and I was ready to just take Seattle apart. And he would run with me, he'd hang with me, never criticized, never judged, and a couple of times pulled me out of some real tough spots. And what I registered with time about him, because he had this reputation as just a dangerous bad guy, was a tremendously compassionate human being. I'm not too sure that comes across in the film so well. I don't know, though. That's because I know him. So I'm putting that out there now, because I think it's the essence of him. He went back to drinking in the spring of 1991, and by October 22nd, he was dead by his own hand, which was a sad thing. I just want to read 2 small little passages here that I think tell who he is or was, and that isn't that much recognized. And part of it is I wrote, this is a posthumous book called More Noise, Please, of his poetry that I was honored to write the foreword to. And there's one little passage in here. It talks about the memorial they gave for Jesse after he died. And it was a wake gathering at the Cyclops and another one at the OK Hotel. I don't even know if they're there anymore, in Seattle. And it was the Sunday after Jesse's death, back in October of '91. Both establishments were packed with grief and bewilderment. No one had had time to sort it out. Shortly before Jesse died, his good friend, the artist John Harder, made a cast of his hands, and the results rested on an altar-like shelf at the OK Hotel, surrounded by lit candles. The hands, like his last poetry, which did a tremendous turn into the most sensitive stuff you've ever read, stunned me. They wiped out confusion and ambiguity about who Jesse was. They were so small and delicate. They were like the hands of a child. And then I want to read this, which was written by him on August 12th, 1991, just 2 months before he died. And this is really revealing to me. This is handwritten, it wasn't published anywhere. He says, "These are not experiences I'm equipped to write about." And he's out there where he died, which was Nia Bay, which is a small town on the Makah Indian Reservation on the Olympic Peninsula. For some reason, he was out there. And this is August 12th. "These are not experiences I'm equipped to write about. The sensations outside my painful and sarcastic, are outside my painful and sarcastic vocabulary. He's talking about being out there in nature. In fact, I'm on a beach. In fact, I'm on a beach in early morning. A soft pink mist lifts from the ground. Birds fly in every direction. A boat's horn echoes among the cliffs. Children run round. Let me see. Yeah, children run round. What is this? Okay. Children run round you, waving their arms. I can hardly stand to record such things of beauty, but it's a good exercise. That's it. Now you can see the documentary. Thank you.